as we see companies proposing thousands or tens of thousands of satellites in new constellations, that question of space traffic management and particularly orbital debris has really escalated. Orbital debris, meaning large and small objects in the space environment, some natural, many artificial, many created by humans from previous space activities, is certainly an aspect of operating in space. Now and then the space station has to adjust its position. Satellites often have to move out of the way of debris of other satellites. And there's a pretty successful system of coordination for those purposes. But one of the worries is many more satellites that are very small satellites or moderately small satellites could create a problem if they're so small that they don't have independent propulsion and you have to wait for them to naturally deorbit. That's a concern, but I think becoming less and less of a concern as we see the architectures of the large satellite constellations, and they're not tiny satellites, and they're typically looking at satellites with propulsion. The big worry about debris is that you end up with a tragedy of the commons situation and you destroy the resource that enables space activities. That sort of doomsday scenario is certainly one that is a cause of concern. The probability is not high. We're not starting from zero with regard to rules and regulations about what you put in space and your responsibility for making sure that it doesn't become debris. I think it's important to understand that we're not going from no debris to lots of debris. We're going from a managed debris environment to a future debris environment, which may be more challenging to manage.
So space debris is an increasingly important issue, and it's really been exacerbated by the rise of these so-called mega constellations. So SpaceX has launched Starlink to deliver, internet access around the planet, and they've put up more than 1,500 satellites. OneWeb is doing something similar. They've put up almost 300 satellites. Amazon's Project Kuiper plans to put up thousands and thousands of satellites. China is planning a similar constellation. Europe is looking at this. Russia is looking at this. So mega constellations are coming, and pretty soon we're probably going to see a doubling, tripling, and then maybe by a factor of 10 increasing the number of satellites we have in low Earth orbit. And so that creates a much greater potential for collisions, or potential for much more debris. And this is a huge issue. And so, there's a patchwork of regulatory, framework, a patchwork regulatory framework set up to address this. For example, if you want to launch a satellite in the United States, or if you want to do business in the United States with your satellite, you have to get permission from the Federal Communications Commission to do that. But are they the best agency to regulate this issue in terms of potential debris, to handle collisions? Should that be done by the Space Force? Should that be done by NASA? It really has not been settled by the US government or the Space Council. And then, there's some interaction between the US and international officials on this, but there's no international treaty that regulates this debris or satellite launches. And so it is going to become a growing issue, a growing area of concern. And if we're not careful, it could really create a catastrophic effect where you render certain altitudes above the Earth basically, uninhabitable for satellites because there's so much debris floating around.